Not presented yet. All right. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
We want to begin the lesson off by giving all praise, honor, and glory
To Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem with Kadash.
Double blessing and honor to the apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone who taught us His truth through the spirit and the power of Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace and salutations to the brothers out there pushing His truth, the Akim, as well as you few sisters out there listening and learning, the Akwat. To you also I say Shalom. It is your brother, Ratazah Gabar, back with another lesson through the spirit.
This is Hadab Yarbad.
And in today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the Northern and Southern Kingdom captivity and going into a little bit of the history of it. So, with that being said, I'm going to let the brother go ahead and get this precept that he has.
Why I got to share the screen then, though?
Click on your screen and add the stage.
Oh. Now, I just took a trip to Curacao. If you don't know, it's a old Dutch colony, right? And I went to the one of the slave plantations. They got as a museum. What's the name of it was? Salaki. The Kura Hulanda village, right? So let me start off first in the book of Jeremiah, 50th chapter, 17th verse.
Are you reading just one scripture?
I'm reading a couple.
Okay.
Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. Away from where? Our homeland. Our natural homeland is currently being called Palestine, where the unrecognized state of Israel is occupying the Palestinians. Israel is a scattered sheep. The lions have driven him away. First, the king of Assyria, that's the point, have devoured him. And last, this Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, have broken his bones. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the most high power of Israel, behold, I will punish the king of Babylon and his land as I have punished the king of Assyria. Modern day Babylon is America, and through the spirit, Assyria is too. You got a lot of people that say the 12 tribes of Israel are all black, but that's not the case. We have the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. So,
and on top of that, it's not a color thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't understand it's not based on color, right? The scriptures tell us to judge righteous judgment and judge not according to the appearance.
Yeah, you got to use discernment through the spirit.
Exactly. So how could it be based on somebody's skin color? Because at the end of the day, you have Jakes who look like the other nations, but they're actually Jakes. But then you also have people of the other nations that appear to look like Jakes, but they're not.
Yeah, because we have been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth over time, through history, right? Here go the point of this lesson. Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Yahweh of hosts is his name. He shall thoroughly plead their cause, that he may give rest to the land and disquiet the inhabitants of Babylon. A sword is upon the Chaldeans, saith Yahweh, and upon the inhabitants of Babylon, and upon our princes, and upon our wise men, right? Because as we currently speak, you got your boy DJ trying to go at Venezuela. Now, where I was at was Curacao. It's a small island right above Venezuela. They call it the ABC Islands, right? Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao. So now we're finna look up the Dutch colonization. And then you can read what you was gonna read in second Esdras, right? For the Northern Kingdom.
Why are you doing that?
Yeah, so I can put it over here, right?
Are you just trying to search it?
I'm finna pull it up, yeah.
The Dutch colonies?
Yeah.
You just click it.
Oh, okay. So I need to take my skirt down, let you pull it up. Let you pull up your verse you want to get.
Yeah, I got it. I'll do it.
All right, go ahead.
This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 13. Let me see. I can start at verse 35. It says, "But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion." Verse 35.
Give him a little backdrop. Like this is when the northern kingdom got took over by Assyria. Right? Go ahead.
"But he shall stand upon the top of the Mount Zion, and Zion shall come and shall be shewed to all men, being prepared and builded, like as thou sawest the hill graven without hands. And this, my son, shall rebuke the wicked inventions of those nations which for their wicked life are fallen into the tempest, and shall lay before them their evil thoughts, and the torments wherewith they shall begin to be tormented, which are like unto a flame, and he shall destroy them without labor by the law which is like unto fire. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes, which is the southern, or Salaki, the northern kingdom, which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel amongst themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, right? Which is talking about the Americas, because for that time, there weren't any nations over there in that land, that they might dare keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So when people try and say, oh, well, the natives weren't over here and stuff like that, or they try and say that Cristobal Colon discovered the Americas and all this other stuff, how could he have discovered a land that was already being inhabited by other people? Then on top of that, if you even go into the accounts or the letters that these so-called travelers and settlers were writing, describing what the people over in the land already looked like, they were describing them as even being darker than myself and a brother. So make that make sense. This is the scripture that's proven that the northern kingdom, those tribes were sent over here to be in the Americas. And you know what I'm saying? You know, boats and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Our people were dispersed all over the place in the Caribbeans. You know what I'm saying? Some in South America, and then some in the lower parts of North America.
Yep, in Central America. So when I went to the Curo Holando village, which was a plantation, one of the first things they showed was the Assyrian script, which would make sense because the Northern Kingdom was taken captive by the Assyrians, just like he read, right? And then they just brought that influence over to Central and South America. Now let's go into the Dutch colonization, because that's who took them over, right? Dutch colonization driven by powerful trading Dutch, which is in Amsterdam, right? Edomites. That's why we're going to get 2nd Esdras 16:1, right? Dutch colonization driven by powerful trading companies like the VOC and WIC established a vast global trading empire from the 16th century, from the 17th and 18th centuries, which meaning the 1600s and 1700s, focusing on lucrative spices, sugar, and furs, with major holdings in Indonesia, the Dutch East Indies, South Africa, Suriname, we're going to look that up too, and the Caribbean, alongside outposts in North America, New Netherland becoming New York, in Asia, leaving a lasting cultural and economic legacy, including involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. They was major, right? So for those who saying that the Northern Kingdom, meaning the Latin tribes from Puerto Rico, Ephraim, all the way down to Venezuela, Asher, they were placed in slavery first, right? Starting, we got the little picture right quick. This is the first thing I took a picture of when I was over there at the Slave Trade Museum. Starting in 1441. Hey, right. Starting in 1441, Enrique Navigator, right? Then 1492, Columbus came over. Cristobal, what he just said, Cristobal Colon. Spanish Jacinto, look at the timeline, 1500s. 1530, the Dutch slave trade started. 1621, the WIC, right?
What does that stand for?
That's one of their trade companies.
Oh, okay.
Right? Salaki.
Remember, we always say this though, right? At the end of the fall of the ancient Roman Empire, which fell around the 400s, that's when we came into captivity, where it talks about in the book of Revelation 13 about the deadly wound, right? They came back into power until around the late 1400s, you know what I'm saying, going into the 1500s, which was known as the Renaissance period, the rebirth, around the time where, you know, Cristobal Colon and stuff like that was roaming around. As you can see, this timeline starts in 1441, called Law Yahweh Shemel Shah. That's just showing, like,
did he say the middle passage? See the thing say middle passage?
Exactly. They started coming back into power.
Okay, let me shrink this.
That was basically, yeah.
So that was it. Now let's go. Let's keep going, because if you can pull this up yourself, America's the WIC, the West Indian Company. That's the name, right? Then let me go down to Curacao where I was at, because in particular in Curacao, look at the modern nations. The empire's remnants include the independent Netherlands and Caribbean islands like Aruba, while territories like Indonesia, Suriname, and South Africa experienced long-lasting changes from Dutch rule. So the Dutch, the Edomites that lived in the land of Amsterdam, they got a lot to pay for. That's why 2nd Ezra 16:1 say what? Woe to the inhabitants of who? Asia. Where is Empire? Let's go to the Dutch colonial empire. I'm trying to pull up Curacao, because while I was over there, like the native, like those who were there, everybody looked like a so-called African American, but they all spoke different languages. Right? Let's go to the Dutch. Let's see.
And that's how I was when I was in Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me click this off. Because they were all in cahoots with each other, the French. And let's go to Curacao. Salaki, a beautiful country. Curacao, officially the country of Curacao, is a constituent island country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, located in southern Caribbean Sea, specifically the Dutch Caribbean region, about 40 miles north of Venezuela and 50 miles southeast of Aruba. Curacao includes the main island of Curacao and the much smaller uninhabited island of Klein Curacao. Curacao has a population of 158,675, right? That was in 2019. They told me it's about 200 to 300,000 people there now. Mainly Edomites. And you can tell, that's why the scriptures read, is Israel a homeborn slave? Because when I was over there, they catered to them Edomites more than they did to us. Right? Mm-hmm. Like it was no problem. They just kept serving them. They wouldn't even serve us. I paid attention to that shit. So like, but they got a
so I say they cover fields.
Yeah, all they do is cover fields.
Part of my land.
And now, guess who's trying to take over that part of the earth? The Edomites over here in Babylon, because they want the vast resources that they have over there.
Yeah, the Lord have made their land barren.
Yeah.
And that was on purpose.
Now look at this. The island name Curacao may originate from the indigenous autonym of its people. This idea is supported by early Spanish accounts referring to the inhabitants of as Indios Curaçaos. Curaçao's history begins with the Arawak. You probably can trace them back to one of the 10 tribes. And I can't spell it. Can you pronounce that? Coquitio? Caucasio Amera Indians. The island becoming a Spanish colony after Alonso de Ojeda's 1499 expedition. Though labeled the useless island due to its poor agricultural yield and lack of precious metals, right? It later became a strategic cattle ranching area with the Dutch colonized when the Dutch colonized the island in 1634. This is before the African slave trade, right? They shifted the island's focus to trade and shipping and later made it a hub of the Atlantic slave trade. Members of the Jewish community fleeing persecution in Europe settled here and significantly influenced the economy and culture. Now, when you go into the history of why the Jewish community fled Europe, is because they was they banking practices. They was putting usury on everybody. Look at that. All these Edomite countries had a hand in the slave trade. British forces occupied Curacao twice during the French Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, right? But let's go to the Atlantic slave trade.
Let me get this.
Go ahead.
Well, I don't have to remove it. I'll just say the book of Revelation 13 and 10, 13 and 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints.
All right, now look. In 2018, you see on the screen, 75% was Curaçaoans, meaning a Northern Kingdom member. 9% was Dutch, 3.6% Dominican, 3% Colombian, 1% Haitian, 1% Surinamese, Venezuela, and Arubian. All of them from the Northern Kingdom, except the Haitians. That's Levi, right? Now you can get the rest of the history on. Just look it up. Curacao. It's a nice island, right? So let's go back. This is going to be a quick lesson. Now we can go to Judith in the 5th chapter to see when the Assyrians had already taken over the Northern Kingdom and they were trying to come against the Southern Kingdom. And this right here is what's going on to this day. Right? So the account is, you can read this for yourself. Akur, the speech of Akur. Judith, the book of Judith, 5th chapter, 5th verse. Then Akur, the leader of the Ammonites. Yeah, I'm going to GNT. Yeah. The leader of the Ammonites answered Holofernes, who was the general of Assyria, because they were trying to take over the Southern Kingdom, right? They had already transposed or took the Northern Kingdom away. Sir, if you will please, this is Good News Translation. Sir, if you will please be so kind and listen to me, right? So just like in the movie 300, when the Persians, the Medo-Persian Empire was in existence, whenever they took over your country, they incorporated your strongest men to be in their armies. So the Assyrian Empire, which was in modern day Iraq, present day Iraq, right? That's why it was called the Assyro-Babylonian Empire, because Nebuchadnezzar was Assyrian, right? You can look this stuff up. Then, Shalaki. So Ammon, the modern day Japanese, right? All these nations came against us. Then Akur, the leader of all the Ammonites, modern day Japanese, answered Holofernes, which was the general of the Assyrian army. Sir, if you will please be so kind and listen to me, I will tell you the truth about these people, who? Us, the Israelites, who live in the mountains near your camp. I will not lie to you. These people are descendants of some Babylonians, talking about Abraham, who abandoned the ways of their ancestors in order to worship the most high power of heaven. Finally, they were driven out of their land because they refused to worship their ancestors' gods. That's during the time of Nimrod, right? You know, then Abraham came along, he told Abraham to move. Then they fled to Mesopotamia, where they settled and lived for a long time. Afterward, their God told them to leave Mesopotamia and go to the land of Canaan, which is modern day, what they call Palestine now, where they settled and became very rich in gold, silver, and livestock. Later, when a famine struck all the land of Canaan, the Israelites, these Israelites, as they were later called, went down to Egypt because Joseph was already there, remember? And it was a famine throughout the land. It's in, what's that, in Genesis?
Yeah.
Went down to Egypt and stayed there as long as there was enough food. While they were there, they became a large nation with so many people that they could not be counted.
That's the spirit.
Right? So just like when we was in Egypt, that's why they put us in slavery, because they thought we was going to join up with the Egyptians, with Egypt's enemies, and try to overtake them. So they had us in slavery, right?
No, remember though, we didn't do it the pyramids.
Yeah. Later, when a famine struck all the land of Canaan, these Israelites, as they were later called, went down to Egypt. I mean, that's when Jacob and the rest of his sons came down and they saw Joseph, right? Well, I'll just go back. As they were later called, went down to Egypt, and they stayed there as long as there was enough food. While they were there, they became a large nation with so many people that they could not be counted. So the king of Egypt turned against them, like I just said. He took advantage of them and put them to work making bricks, like you just said, building the pyramids, right? He oppressed them and made them slaves, but they prayed to their God, and he sent disasters that left the Egyptians helpless. You can read that in what? The time of Moses, right? Exodus. When the Egyptians drove them out of the country, their God dried up the Red Sea in front of them and led them along the way to Sinai and Kadesh Barnea. The Israelites drove out all the people who lived in the southern part of Canaan, occupied the land of the Amorites, wiped out the people of Heshbon, crossed the Jordan River, and took possession of the entire mountain region. They drove out the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Shechemites, and the Girgashites. The Israelites have now lived in these mountains for a long time, right? So during the time of the Assyrian Empire was between 700, the Northern Kingdom came over to the Americas in in 724 BC. So here go the point. And this is what applies today, right? This is why our enemies, starting with the Edomites, do the things that they do. Their God hates wickedness. And as long as they did not sin against him, they prospered. Meaning that as long as we went by the law, statutes, and commandments that the Most High Power gave to Moses, we would have dominion over the whole earth.
That's Deuteronomy 28, 1 through 15.
Yep, dude, like the brother just said. But here go the point. And this is why people at today, we destroy. But when they disobeyed him, they suffered heavy losses in many wars and were finally taken away as captives to a foreign country. That's the Assyrian Empire, right? Which later, they let them go because of the will of the Lord, and the Northern Kingdom came over to the Americas, like the brother just mentioned. The temple of their God was leveled, and their cities were occupied by their enemies. But now that they have returned to their God, talking about the Southern Kingdom, they have come back home from the countries where they have been scattered. They have again taken possession of the city of Jerusalem, where their temple is, and have resettled in the mountains that have been renamed, that have remained uninhabited. Here go the point, sir. If these people are now sinning against their God, even unknowingly, and if we can be sure that they are guilty of some offense, we can successfully attack them. But if they have not disobeyed the law of their God, then you should leave them alone, or he will defend them, and we will be disgraced before the whole world. But as you can tell, our people love breaking the law, statutes, and commandments of the Lord. Who lead the league in tattoos? Why do you think that these devils, meaning the Edomites, put pork in damn near every product available to man?
Revelation 12 and 10.
Right?
So they can blame us.
Yeah.
Let me read this again.
Go ahead.
Verse 20, sir, if these people are now sinning against their God, even unknowingly, and if we can be sure that they are guilty of some offense, we can successfully attack them. That's just like setting up a stumbling block or a snare. Really a snare.
Yeah.
But if they have not disobeyed the law of their God, then you should leave them alone, or he will defend them, and we will be disgraced before the whole world. So like he said, they've been trying to make us go off and break the scriptures. And I said this in my lesson the other day too. These people, for some reason, us as Jakes, we always want to be like the heathen. And in turn, the heathen have always wanted to be like us. It's even accounts in the Bible where, you know what I'm saying, we might conquer somebody, or people will see how well our guys are doing, or how well our people are doing because they following the Lord, and they want to go and worship the Lord. And the Lord like, nah, I'm not fucking with you.
Like when we tried to rebuild a temple during the time of Zerubbabel now.
Yeah. But I was gonna say that this verse 20 remind me of that T.I. song, "What Up, What's Happening," where they was on the phone. It was like, we can knock him off. Let's just try him when he get caught with guns.
Yeah, let's make up something against him. Exactly. And that's what our enemy nations have been doing to us. And as you can tell, we are destroyed as a people from all their snares and traps that they have placed before us, and stumbling blocks that got us to breaking the law, statutes, and commandments. Like they say, even if we do it unknowingly, right, the Lord gonna punish us, right? So
somehow he must be stopped. Something must be done.
Yeah. So just like let's go back.
Let me get 2 Ezra 16.
Oh. Yes, you can read 16 and 1.
All right.
We go to the slave trade.
Second Ezra, you want me to just read this one?
You just read the first verse.
All right.
Asia, because Asia is Europe. They start, yeah. How you do that? That was tough.
Yeah. So when they be on their lessons, you just hit the number of the verse. That's why when you put it at first, I was asking you, was you just reading one?
Okay.
2 Ezra 16 and 1. Woe be unto thee, Babylon and Asia. Woe be unto thee, Egypt and Syria.
See, all these places, Asia is Europe is nothing but a part of Asia.
It's just like home continent.
Yeah, just like the Middle East. They called it the Middle East and Europe because when they took over, like he said, during the Renaissance period, they started renaming lands. But that's just Asia. And as we can tell, it say, woe be unto Asia, meaning the Edomites that's from the Netherlands to Germany to France, Spain, the UK, Great Britain, right? Now look at this right here. The Atlantic slave trade or transatlantic slave trade involved the transportation by slave traders of enslaved African people. But we know they weren't African, they was us, because you can see that sign right there, say Negroes. Right? And when you go into the what's that? Zondervan Dictionary, they say Ham, the progenitor of the African nations, not the Negroes. Why? Because we came out of Shem.
And in the scriptures it say that there's a difference between the Egyptians and the Israelites too.
Right.
As a people and as their customs as well.
So if y'all look this up, because this is our history, and you can want to forget it if you want to. Guess who ain't forgot it? The Most High Power. The Atlantic slave trade or transatlantic slave trade involved the transportation by slave traders, mainly Jewish people, traders of enslaved African people to the Americas. European slave ships regularly used the triangular trade route in its middle passage. I gotta we ain't even pull that picture up. That's one of the first things you see when you come into this little plantation. It say middle passage. Europeans, Shalaki. It went off. There you go. Let me read this again. So I just pulled it up. Look at that. To be sold, a cargo, 94 prime healthy Negroes, right? Europeans established a coastal slave trade in the 15th century, and trade to the Americas began in the 16th century, lasting through the 19th century. The vast majority of those who were transported in the Atlantic slave trade were from Central Africa and West Africa. West Africa is where we fled to after 70 AD and various other parts of the earth, right? And had been sold by Western African slave traders to European slave traders. And most of those owners of those boats were Jewish, while others had been captured directly by the slave traders in coastal raids. European slave traders gathered and imprisoned and enslaved at forts on the African coast and brought them to the Western Hemisphere. And we just read Curacao was a hub. Some Portuguese and Europeans participated in slave raids. As the National Museums, Liverpool explains, European traders captured some Africans, meaning Israelites, in raids along the coast, but bought most of them from local African or African European dealers, meaning Hamites, that was in bed with the who? Edomites. European slave traders generally did not participate in slave raids. This is primarily because life expectancy for Europeans in sub-Saharan Africa was less than 1 year during this period of the slave trade due to malaria that was an epidemic to the African continent. Right? And if you look up Suriname, look that up when you get a chance, right? Look at all these Edomite nations. The major Atlantic slave trading nations in order of trade volume were Portugal, Britain, Spain, France, the Netherlands, the United States, and Denmark. Right? Go ahead. This is all we need from this, because we can get what you call, and this will be a quick lesson. Mm-hmm. Here go the point. He just read Revelation 13, right? Now let's go.
That's why it says in the scriptures, man, that the Lord's going to come against all the nations, because they all have parts in our downfall or demise. The only real group of people who don't have like much history in the Bible for real is Japheth.
Yeah. All right, let me get this. This Jeremiah 30 and 14. I wanted to tell this to the people of Curacao, because they still under that spell of the Edomites. All thy lovers have forgotten thee. They seek thee not, for I have wounded thee with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, because we violated the law, statutes, and commandments. That's why we just brought up Deuteronomy 28, right? For the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. You can also read the book of Hosea too to get more background on what the northern kingdom did. Ephraim being the head tribe, the modern day Puerto Ricans, right? Here go the point. Why criest thou for thine affliction? Thy sorrow is incurable for the multitude of thine iniquity, because thy sins were increased. I have done these things unto thee. So when you want to look at the condition of us, Jakes from America to Central America to South America and around the world, you got some black people saying we need to establish our own community. We need to build up our own stuff. You can't do that. Why? Because the Lord have done these things to us.
Yeah, we're under the curses.
We're under the curses. Here go the point. This is a future for our enemies. Jeremiah 30 and 16. Therefore, all that devour thee, I just named all the countries, shall be devoured. All thine adversaries, every one of them. That's why he read Revelation 13, right? shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon thee will I give for a prey. Right? For I will restore health unto thee, and I will heal thee of thy wounds, saith Yahweh, because they call thee an outcast, saying, this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after.
I don't think y'all realize, like, we came from royalty, came from being rulers to being brought down to a very, very low state, to where we became quite literally the laughing stock of all nations, proverb and the byword of the people.
But that's coming to an end.
That's utter humiliation.
Yeah, as you can see. Let's get what's it called? Let me get that right quick. This is what's taking place for these Edomites. Let's go to Lamentations. Lamentations 4 and 20. Is it 4 and 20? Now, 4 and 21. Shalaki. I started at 19. Wait a minute. Let me go up. Shalaki, let me read this right quick. I want to read this right quick, Israel, before I. You got something?
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up real quick.
Go ahead.
The book of Zechariah 12, verse 7, it says, the Lord Yahweh also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall the Lord Yahweh defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord Yahweh before them. It shall come to pass in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. So us as a whole, our people, everyone that's come against us, the Lord's going to seek to destroy them. As it says, let me get this. Hebrews 10 and 30.
You're right. When I'm bringing up Lamentations 4, right, you can read from the beginning, from the top. Right? This is during the time, I think, when the Assyrians took us over, when they starved us out. But it happened again when the Edomites starved us out when they were the Romans. Right? Yeah.
Hebrews 10 and 30. For we know him that hath said, vengeance belongeth unto me. I will recompense, saith the Lord. And again, the Lord shall judge his people. It is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And those who come against us, they're going to have to deal with Yahweh Shah. Why Yahweh?
Yeah.
And his punishment. So
let me read this I'm gonna read this in the NLT. Jeremiah. If you read Jeremiah, you're gonna realize they're talking about us. Because like I said, everybody over in Curacao was a person of various colors, various ranges of brown, from light brown to dark brown, right? This is during the time of when our enemies came against us. Lamentations 4 and 8, I think it was the Assyrians. But now their faces are blacker than soot. Talking about us, because we were starving. And when you under famine, your skin gets darker. No one recognizes them in the streets. Their skin sticks to their bones. It is as dry and hard as wood. You can go to Book of Kings for an account of this too. Those killed by the sword are better off than those who die of hunger. This when they was coming in like we just read in Judah. When they come and take over your country, they fuck you up. Same thing that was going on when your house out Mashiach came on the earth. The Romans came to our land and fucked us up, but y'all don't get that. Right? Tender-hearted women have cooked their own children. They have eaten them to survive the siege. Siege meaning they cut off, they surround your area, your town, and cut it off. Can't nothing get in and can't nothing get out. So the people starve, right?
It's like what they're doing
with the people, what they're doing to the Palestinians, right? Exactly. But now, and they just what? They just said the Israelis just banned 30 more organizations that was just trying to get them aid. Man, that ain't even in the news. But now the anger of Yahweh is satisfied. His fierce anger has been poured out. He started a fire in Jerusalem that burned the city to its foundations. Why? Because we broke the law, statutes, and commandments. Not a king in all the earth, no one in all the world would have believed that an enemy could march through the gates of Jerusalem. That's why we read Judith, the 5th chapter. Because as long as we was going by the law, statutes, and commandments, could nobody touch us. But as soon as we start breaking them laws, statutes, and commandments, even unknowingly, we was given into the hands of our enemies, and we were scattered throughout the 4 corners of the earth. Yet it happened, here it is right here, because of the sins of her prophets, right? They were fake prophets. And the sins of her priests, they was all corrupt, who defiled the city by shedding innocent blood. They wandered blindly through the streets, so defiled by blood that no one dared touch them, right? Let me jump down to 16. All right, there we go. Get away, the people shout. I'm going to keep going. It's 15. Lamentations 4:15. Get away. The people shouted at them, you are defiled. Don't touch us. Talking about the priests and the prophets. So they fled to distant lands and wandered among foreign nations, but none would let them stay because they know who he was, right? 16. Yahweh himself has scattered them, and he no longer helps them, right? People show no respect for the priests and no longer honor the elders. Is that not what's taking place today amongst our people? You got prophets standing on the corners, the highways and byways, telling our people to repent because our Lord and Savior, Yahweh HaMashiach, is about to return. You're seeing signs in the heavens, but our people ain't paying attention. They still telling us, starting with the men of GMS, look at them niggas, they crazy. They in the cool. Okay, we finna find out, all right? The Lord, Yahweh himself, has scattered them, and he no longer helps them. People show no respect for the priests and no longer honor the leaders. He going to point to our people, especially those who cleave to our number one enemy, Esau, Edom. We looked in vain for our allies to come and save us, but we were looking to nations that could not help us. Now, when we was under siege and how we are today, as a man with a son, I was nervous, just like my mama was nervous whenever we went outside because we don't know what the fuck might happen. You might get shot down by the police. You might even get attacked by one of your own fellow Israelites, right? Black on black crime, as they call it. We couldn't go into the streets without danger to our lives. Our end was near. Our days were numbered. We were doomed. Our enemies were swifter than eagles in flight. If we fled to the mountains, they found us. If we hid in the wilderness, they were waiting for us there.
Did that not happen in slavery over here?
They're not correct, right? Our king, Yahweh's anointed, the very life of our nation was caught in their snares. You can read the book of Kings for these accounts because they was corrupt leaders. We had thought that his shadow would protect us against any nation on earth. Here go the point. Lamentations 4:21. Are you rejoicing in the land of Uz, O people of Edom, modern day so-called white man and woman and child? But you too must drink from the cup of Yahweh's anger. You too will be stripped naked in your drunkenness. And what's the cup of Yahweh's anger? Slavery. That's why he read Revelation 13 and what? 10. Oh, beautiful Jerusalem, meaning us, the northern and southern kingdom. Your punishment will end. You will soon return from exile. But Edom, Esau, Edom, the modern day so-called white man, your punishment is just beginning. Soon your many sins will be exposed. And that's what we're doing right now, exposing the corrupt, wicked ass Edomites. That's why I read in what? Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right, I think that's a good stopping point. Let me see that again. The end of the verse. Oh, I was about to say something about that.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. The curses are starting to fall upon the Edomites. That's what I
Oh,
was
let's get
thinking
there
about.
right quick. Yeah, hold on. Let me get there right quick. What's that? Deuteronomy 30? Deuteronomy.
Yeah, the curses are starting to fall back upon them.
We're reading it in
And
NLT.
they're continually
30
getting
and 7.
exposed every day. Like I said, sin is being revealed every day, man. Even the normal people, the common folk, are realizing the atrocities that these people have spread throughout the earth for decades now.
I thought in 5. Deuteronomy 30 and 5. The NLT. Yahweh, your power will return you to the land that belonged to your ancestors, and you will possess that land again. Future prophecy. Then it will make you even more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors. Verse 6. Yahweh, your power will change your heart. That's Hebrews 8, Jeremiah 30, right? And the hearts of all your descendants, so that you will love him with all your heart and so you may live. Here go the point. Deuteronomy 30 and 7. Yahweh, your power will inflict all these curses on your enemies and on those who hate and persecute you.
You meant to get in NLT?
Yeah, I wanted to read it in NLT. Okay. I read it in KJV though too. It's like you start reading Deuteronomy 28, start with verse 15. Right? Deuteronomy 30 and 5.
You got click the arrow.
Shalaki.
Change it.
Shalaki Israel.
Yeah.
My brother gave me hip on this laptop. And Yahweh, Deuteronomy 30 and 5, and Yahweh, thy power will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed. Meaning we going back to our homeland, the so-called Middle East, the land that's currently being called Palestine, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. And Yahweh, thy power will circumcise thine heart. As like I said, Hebrews 8, Jeremiah 30, and the heart of thy seed to love Yahweh, thy power, with all thine heart. He didn't say he was going to circumcise no other nation's heart, only the Israelites. And with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. Here go the point. And Yahweh, thy power, will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. That's why we just read in Jeremiah 30, all of them going into captivity. That'll be the so-called modern-day white man, so-called modern-day Chinese man, so-called modern-day Indian, the Elamites, the so-called modern-day Ishmaelites, the Arabs, the so-called modern-day Ammonites. We read that in Judith, the 5th chapter, that they was coming against us. So ain't no excuse. Y'all, and the so-called Hamites. So if y'all continue to think that salvation is for everybody, you are sorely, you do err not knowing the scriptures. The Lord is finna separate the wheat from the tares. And we all finna find out who his chosen people are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we're going to close it off there. Lord willing, the lesson was edifying to those out there listening and watching. So end it off there.
All right.
I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory
to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakar
Double blessing and honor to the apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone once again, who taught us this truth through the spirit and the power of Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai. And until next time, we say Shalom, Israel. Shalom.
Shalom. And guess what? We one day closer to the kingdom.
Shalom.
Shalom.